Dun, 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 dun. So, color. The Dolphins did a thing. Did you know this?
What's that?
Well, let's talk. Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to a brand new episode of Broken Takes, where anything goes. You can say what's on your mind. The crazier, the better. Let's talk about it. I got my buddy, the man, the myth, legend, Color. What's going on, Color? How's it going?
Pretty good. How about yourself, Ali?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. The Dolphins are back in the playoffs, Color. We're back in the playoffs. May not have been the prettiest way there, but we got there. And the job was done. After, I don't know, how many years has it been? 2000, what was it, 2011?
22 or 23 years? 22 or 23 or...
No,
we
haven't won one in more than 20 years.
Yeah.
We've been there, what, 2012 and then 2016, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, it's been a while and too far in between. And finally, we're here. We have to play the big bad Buffalo for a third time this season. And regardless of what people are saying, I think history's going to repeat itself in the sense that it's going to be one hell of a close game. You look at the first game, we won, what was it, 21-19, something like that. It was like something really, really close, nail biter. And even the second game, in the snow game at Buffalo, we kept it close, man. It was 29-32 till the very last field goal.
Total of 51-50 Buffalo over 2 games.
Yeah, I mean that's super close. That means we can actually possibly compete. Now, here's the elephant in the room. Can the Miami Dolphins compete against Buffalo without Tua? Right? So there's no Tua. He's still having issues with the concussion protocols. All right. So where do we go from here? We saw what's happened in the last game. The first time in 5 games we actually won against a top 4 defense, Color. I don't care about their offense. It was a top 4 defense, and we won the game, right? And Skylar Thompson, regardless, didn't have the worst game, but he also didn't have the best game either, right? Part of that could be scheme. Part of that could be he's a rookie. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with that, but I also think that, the guy just started his first full game and finished and game plan for him. And I think there may have been some timing issues. I mean, look, we're going into it with a guy that's obviously going to have to, reach down deep and throw everything on it, throw everything out the window and execute. And we're going to need to support that with a run game and sound defense. But I don't think that, I don't think that the stuff we saw last week couldn't be overcome by, another week of looking at things by our coach and adjusting things properly. So
definitely, I completely understand.
I think we're dead in the water.
Yeah, I understand. I don't think that we're dead in the water, so to speak. I think that we do have a lot of weapons here, and we have a lot of stuff that we haven't done enough this season. And today was a prime example of that. I was watching on NFL Network. They were replaying the first game, Week 3, Buffalo versus Miami, right? And I was going back and watching all the different plays we did. There's stuff that we did in that game we haven't done since then. Why? We have that meme that I play on on Late Night Exhale that the chick's yelling, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?" What is the Miami Dolphins waiting for? There's stuff in against the Jets we did that we haven't done in a while. I want to see us go into that game, let Skyler loose, unleash him. Hey, we already expect to lose the game. Let's just go out and make it interesting. Do whatever you think that you can to make it interesting. You know what I mean? That's what I think. Let's,
Absolutely,
let's
absolutely.
speak of the devil. Let's actually get another perspective. Let's bring up Mr. DTA. How's it going, DTA? Oh, he's gone. Something happened. All right. Technical difficulties. We'll bring him back pretty shortly. But um, you know, so I want to. What do you think? Do you think the Dolphins should just go out, play like they got nothing to lose? Come into swinging with bombs. What do you think?
Of course, because they don't have anything to lose. The only people that have anything to lose here is the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I just want us to go in there and stomp their teeth in, Color. That's what I want to do. Just like this fist, I just want to keep doing it
I
over
agree.
and over and over again. Doesn't matter what they do, just keep doing that. You know what I mean? I want us to do the jet sweeps. I want us to run it up to the outside and let our speed kill them. I want to make them tired on their own field. Regardless of what the score is, just do whatever it takes. This is the game.
Absolutely.
This is the game that you have to play, Tyreek, to do punt returns or kickoff returns if you have to. You know what I mean? This is a do or die game. That's just basically what it is.
All hands on deck.
Yeah. So, God willing, Skyler, maybe pull this off, and we'll make things interesting, and then we got more to talk about. Then we'll bring up the subject of who starts the next game. Is it still Skyler, or do we bring back Tua at that point?
Well,
Or
if we're even going to win this game, it's because we got a special performance out of Skyler. So I
that
wouldn't change
is
that
true.
at all.
I think you go with the hot hand. Whoever is winning you the games at that point, that's who you
Mhm.
go with. Now
Agreed.
it's okay to have Tua as your backup.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? That's just my opinion. So anyway, long story short, that's another story. Let's actually get into business here. Regardless of what happens in this game, right? Regardless if we win or we lose, or um, you know, let's say we win and we make it all the way to the Super Bowl. Regardless of what happens, I think the Dolphins need to make changes in this coming up off season. There are certain positions I think we need to address as well. We don't even know. Um, that's sad. Just got some breaking news. I'll talk to you about that in a little bit, Color. Um, we don't even know, you know, if Tua really is the guy. We don't know. And because of the fact that it's been 3 years, I can't say he's the guy. I can't wait any longer. I can't depend on the waiting and hoping that something's going to happen. And this guy
Right.
ends up becoming the elite quarterback that we want. I really think that the Miami Dolphins need to maybe consider bringing in a new veteran quarterback. There's some free agent options. There's some trade options. Um, let's actually discuss what we think we need to go forward. Let's start with the number one position. That's the quarterback position. Do you stick with Tua? Do you look in free agency, or do you look in trade? What do you think?
No, I don't believe Tua is a viable possibility at all anymore for the Miami Dolphins, one way or another. No matter how anything plays out from here on out. That being said, I don't know what it is we could do if he's not ever cleared to play by the NFL again. Then it doesn't really matter because we have zero trade for value for him at that point.
Hmm.
Um, but the trade value we have now for him is protected by the fact that he can't play. And if he does get cleared, that means that there is plenty of teams out there that would say, okay, given an entire off season of rest and healing, that he'd be just fine as far as the concussion aspect goes, and we still have the ability to flaunt a B plus performance in front of them to get some kind of trade value, whatever that would be. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, obviously, there's a few names that have been tossed out, but I think at this point, the one that probably gives you the greatest value is obviously Tom Brady. You know, probably followed second, a close second by Derek Carr, who has been rumored to kind of be in that talk too, who probably wouldn't command as much money as your top other guys that we've been talking about,
I
but
mean,
still can
let's
provide
talk
you
about who those people
competent QB.
are. Yeah, let's bring up who those people are. Okay, so we've talked about Tom Brady. Derek Carr is a possible trade option at this point. He there's a rumor that if he doesn't get traded that he's going to be cut. All right, so that might be an option. Then you look at the other usual suspects. You have Lamar Jackson, who's been rumored that Mr. Ross and the Miami Dolphins have been interested in previously, and those rumors continue to fly. Um, and then you have Aaron Rodgers, who more recently there's been reports in Bleacher Report and Sports Illustrated that Ross really likes Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? So that being said, you know what do you think we should do here? I personally think let's also bring this into like the Miami Dolphins are negative 9 million at the start of the offseason. Negative 9 million in salary cap. Now there's stuff we have to do, obviously. We are going to have to restructure a couple guys. We could restructure Tyreek. We could restructure Teron Armstead. Um, we could
To me,
restructure.
the choice is clear. You throw in the bag for somebody like Lamar Jackson. If you're going to do a rebuild, admit you're going to do it, and do it. Do it as least destructive a rebuild as possible, soft format, and you do that knowing that the 5 other times you've done it in the last 25 years could have been done just the same with an elite quarterback. So that's just my opinion on it, but that's my personal preference. What I think that the organization will likely do is take the value in somebody like Tom Brady or Derek Carr, depending on how much he's asking for.
Let's look at it this way. So let's say we sign Tom Brady, right, to maybe like a 2 year, maybe 3 year deal at most. Mm-hmm. All right. And I don't think he would cost that much, to be honest. And so you sign Tom Brady, and then you maybe look at who's available in the draft at this point. Right now, there are a lot of quarterbacks that are rumored to come out for this draft for 2023. Now, the two biggest names were basically Bryce Young, and then you have CJ Stroud. Now, CJ Stroud has yet to announce, and he only has 4 days. So as of recording of this show, which is January 12th, 2023, he only has 4 days to the 16th to announce for the draft. If he doesn't announce, that means that he has to stay another year at Ohio State, which, I mean, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. They got a loaded offense. They still have one of the best running backs in the game, Marvin Harrison Jr. The guy's freaking ridiculous. They have a couple different other receivers. And apologies if I ruin his name. And Buku, I think is how you pronounce his last name. He's an amazing receiver that almost had 1,000 yards this season, as well as Harrison Jr. They also have, in fact, their number one tight end that said he's staying for another year. All right. So, and their defense looks like it's staying as well. So that team is going to be competitive for the college playoff again next year. Right. So you have him as a possible option in 2024, as well as the new Notre Dame quarterback, Sam Hartman. Now, you and I have talked about Sam Hartman when he was with Wake Forest. The guy has a nuclear arm. And when I say nuclear, I mean he can throw it from one end of the field to the other and make it look easy. You know what I mean? Perfect
Mhm.
spiral and all. So, and he has great pocket presence. He's not afraid to stay in the pocket, right? And he doesn't always look for the big play as well. He can throw pretty much anywhere on the field that you need him to. Short pass, the intermediate, long
Right.
range, doesn't matter. And he has really nice touch. So he's a guy I'm looking at. He puts up consistent numbers. Look at his college career. In fact, I think last year he had just as many touchdowns as he did this year, but had more yards. 4,200 yards last year, and like 35 touchdowns this year. I think he had like 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns again. It's really ridiculous. The guy is really good, and I can
Mhm.
understand why a team like Notre Dame, pulled him and say, "Hey, we want you here." And that Notre Dame offense is going to be really good at with him at the helm, to be honest. So I'm going to bring in another perspective here.
No.
What's up, DT? Are you there? We got you back now?
Wah,
No?
wah, wah,
All
wah,
right. DTA, if you want in, just turn on your camera so I know
wah,
you're.
wah, wah.
So anyway, you have that option. What else? Um,
I can't say I'm a huge fan of going to the draft,
well,
to be
that's
honest
if
with
you
you.
were talking about soft, rebuilds. That's a good soft rebuild because you signed
Mhm.
yourself Tom Brady, right? You have a pretty much the greatest of all time quarterback. You know what you're getting from him. You know he only has maybe 1 to 2 years left, right? Three at most,
Does it
right?
change your perspective if Skyler pulls out the win Sunday?
That's a possibility, but still, color.
Because to me, a win in a playoff game of this magnitude would be just as showing me just as much as anybody in the college draft could be showing me.
This is true. This is definitely true. I mean, you do have people like Skyler and the guy from the 49ers, Purdy, I think is how you pronounce his
Right,
last name.
right.
That are overperforming in some cases. Purdy is really performing, and I'm very amazed by it. Um, all this is all dependent on where the Dolphins go forward. We're just speculating. So there's a possibility that, we don't go this route. You know what I
Right.
mean? Skyler,
In which
does.
case, we should be also then talking about the failure or the possibility of another coach.
This is true. We'll get to that. But I just want to land my point real quick before we
Hmm.
do that.
Hmm.
So my point was the fact that you've signed him at a cheap cost, right? Then you can sit there and focus on building your draft capital for 2024 rather than 2023. You understand what I'm saying?
Right, right.
Like there are players on this team that I could see us moving, to get some of that capital build up for 2024. Now you have a guy like Sam Hartman, C.J. Stroud, maybe even I think his name is Caleb, the guy that won the Heisman, Caleb Willis, I think it is, the kid that from USC that won the Heisman. He might be in that draft as well. So these are options. I'm not saying we have to go this route, but I could see us drafting the quarterback of the future and letting him sit behind Tom Brady or a veteran quarterback. That's where I was going. That's a soft rebuild to me, and I think that would be. We already have the offensive weapons we need. We do need more running backs because this running back room is going to be empty unless we resign people. That'll be a different show. We will have a full blown draft show that we talk about that in free agency show. We're just speculating stuff that could immediately happen. But
Hmm.
you mentioned it yourself, Color, that there could be a changing of the guard at coaches. Coaching. I've already been on record saying here multiple times. I think Boyer's the first coach out the door, no matter what happens.
Hmm.
Boyer's got to go. I know that people have argued with me saying that not everything is on him. Um, you're right. Not everything is on him, but he should be able to recognize and see issues with the defense and make the proper adjustments to minimize certain problems from happening. I shouldn't have to see McDaniel, who's really brought in to run the offense, right? Go down to the defensive assistant coaches and yelling at people to telling them to fix it in the middle of a game. I shouldn't have to see that. Now, if it's him coming down, if it's Boyer coming down to yell, yeah, okay, he's the defensive coordinator. He's good. He's getting in their ears, telling them to get these guys in order. Whatever. I get it. But what the hell is McDaniel coming down here to do it? Yes, he's the head coach. But the fact that he's recognizing it and your coordinator hasn't done anything to fix it, that kind of worries me. We still didn't actually properly, I feel, use Chubb in a way where he can create organic pressure either. And that's something we've been lacking pretty much all season. How do you feel?
I think he's made a huge difference. Actually, I have a differing opinion on most people. I don't think we see our other guys getting in the backfield as easily without Chubb. I think he's enhanced our run stopping ability in the front four. And I really don't. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people looking for reasons, uh, to cut off Boyer's head on it. But you know, if that's what it takes the head coach to do, that's what it takes. I mean, maybe they're not respecting Boyer. Who knows? But you can see it as him backing him up too. I mean, I don't know. Again,
Yeah,
it really all depends on what we see coming up.
this is true. I mean,
I
I
think we've
understand.
improved over the year. I think we're starting to get road performances that are more equal to our home performances. Uh, and it gives us a good chance to win. So I'm not out on him like everybody
Have
else
we
is.
though? I mean, have we gotten better color? Because I think the home
Yeah,
performances are much better than the away
I know,
performances.
and the away have gotten better. Look at the last 3 or 4. Do the math.
Yeah,
I
you might
mean,
be right. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I just feel like with certain, I think we've underutilized certain players. That we brought in. Like for example, you brought in Chubbs. I feel he was
I mean,
underutilized.
you're asking me to give an excuse, and I don't believe in excuses, but you know, it's not as if we it's not as if we went through the year with the players we expected to go through it with, nor the talent level.
Mm. I was just really getting at the fact that you have Melvin Ingram on this team. You have Jalen Phillips on this team.
Hmm.
You have Chubbs on this team.
Hmm.
You had Agba at one point before the injury,
Right.
right? And you even had Flowers, which I can't believe everybody we bring in, bro. Anybody we sign gets injured. It's ridiculous. You have all these players you brought in, and you couldn't find a way to create organic pressure over and over again. You know what I mean? I feel like if we had, I'm going to say it, if we had a Flores here or a Vangio here, or maybe
Uh,
some of these other
I'm not
defensive
I'm not
players.
disagreeing with you on that. I just,
Mhm.
it's again, what is he going to do any different with the same players?
I don't know. Maybe they run
I
the
mean,
zero blitz
we
off.
didn't we didn't have we didn't have like half of the players we expected to have this year.
Hmm.
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know how another defensive coordinator would he magically make uh, guys at the mid level tackle better.
Actually, that would be something I would definitely hope that a new defensive coordinator would at least get on his assistants to make sure
Yeah,
that
but
they're.
what are they going to do if the players don't execute it? They've been playing football their entire lives. They know how to tackle.
I hear what you're saying, but if the players are not executing, then they're not buying into your philosophy.
Well, then
You
it was
understand what I'm
doomed
saying?
from the start.
This is true. This is true. Um,
And I
no,
don't see how, based on the fact that we've been in every single game, how it could even be considered doomed from the start.
you know, That's a good point too. Maybe it is.
Our
Maybe
defense
you're
has to be able to expect the offense to do their part. They can't pin their ears back and get all kinds of organic pressure when they're down by 2 scores. And the offense refuses to move the football. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not off the square because I understand fundamentally how the lack of offensive production affects the defense, and nobody wants to admit it.
I do understand. I do understand how the offense affects the defense and vice versa.
Well, we're giving up 3 more points per game than we were last year, than our 3-year average.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be able to score more. That's bottom line.
I hear what you're saying.
We're not going to be able to do that until we get a good quarterback. They can fire Boyer. They can fire the next guy. They can bring in Fangio.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they want to do.
So that's one point, I think, regarding the coaches. Now, let's say they go to the extreme. Let's say all shit hits the fan Sunday, and let's say McDaniel finds himself without a job. If that were to happen, what's your take on that? Do you think who would you bring in? What are possibilities? Maybe somebody that we haven't thought about.
Well, I don't buy the fact that he's going after Jim Harbaugh. That could have been done at any time. Harbaugh likely wants to stay in Michigan, and I think he's probably going to be in Detroit. But again, I think McDaniel has a chance to still salvage his job with a win. But you got to do something besides a first-year coach. I mean, we can't go through this again. Otherwise, it's conceding another season.
Mm-hmm.
And,
so I think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think we got to start looking outside the box because I don't think Sean Payton is going to be in Miami either. I think he's already made his decision too, and it's not.
There's
Miami.
rumors that Denver are leading the race right now. That just came out a few moments ago. So they said that.
That means it's not going to be Denver.
Okay. All right. So I'm just saying that's what they're saying. So I definitely hear what you're saying. Sean Payton may not pick Miami. I definitely understand that. But I do agree with you. If you're going to bring in somebody new, it can't be a first-time head coach. You have too much, I want to say too much veteran talent now and too much of a built team to let someone that hasn't done it before take the reins in the window that we have.
That being said, I hear you. We were talking, and we both were talking about something that we came across. I was looking for crazy broken takes to come up with, and next thing you know, the very next day, somebody I was thinking about comes up in the news is not wanting to go through another rebuild with Los Angeles.
True. And who that might be, Color? Tell me.
Well, I was wondering, would it be altogether crazy that Sean McVay doesn't end up in Miami?
That is a possibility. He is
with the quarterback of his choice, or
yeah, that's a possibility. He is a Super Bowl winning, head coach. He's been to 2 Super Bowls with just Los Angeles Rams. It's a very big possibility. In fact, recently he told, I believe, in the news they released that he told his assistants to go. He gave them all permission to find other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And while he figures out his future, or at least interview. And that's a big telling. Would you think he'd come here as a head coach, or do you think he would join up forces with McDaniel?
No, I don't. There's no way a coach goes down at the same organization. McDaniel is likely gone.
Okay.
Unless something major, spectacular happens Sunday, he's likely out of here.
So you don't think he's going to take a step back as a head coach?
No, not
There's
at the
no way
same organization.
he doesn't become a defensive coordinator, or not McDaniel himself. I'm talking about McVay. Since he's thinking.
No, because he's got a Super Bowl ring, so he goes sideways.
Mm-hmm.
He
Understandable.
doesn't go back to OC.
Okay. All right.
You know,
I mean, I'm just
he
thinking
could
about it.
just choose to stay in LA and go through the rebuild. He just doesn't want to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it because you look at
He's
it.
not getting fired. You know,
Yeah, that's true. I'm just looking at it because you have Sean McVay, possibly. You have McDaniel, and then there's a LaFleur that's now out there as an offensive coordinator. Um, it's almost like if you get everybody in a room together, it's like bringing the band back together in a sense. So I thought
I
it was
still
kind of
believe
interesting.
that if Aaron Rodgers comes here, he's coming with Nathaniel Hackett. I still believe that. And to be quite honest with you, I don't care how crazy it sounds. Don't be surprised. This is broken takes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Don't be surprised if somebody else doesn't want to come reunite with Mr. Brady. Who do you think that might be, Ollie?
Billy B.
Have they patched up their differences up there that have arisen, or is Billy B just going for more money from Kraft?
Yeah, that is definitely a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. I mean, maybe Bill Belichick will come down here and actually break the record in Miami as the Miami Dolphin head coach. That's definitely that's actually not even a broken take, bro. That's actually a legit thing that could happen. In a
You
sense.
hear first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to tell you straight up, color. It does not matter who the player is. It could be Aaron Rodgers. It could be Lamar Jackson. It could be another quarterback. If Miami wants them, they really want them, then they're gonna go ahead and get him. Don't look at our draft capital. Don't look at our trade assets, or whatever. If they really want somebody, they'll make it happen one way or the other.
Right, right.
Right. I think at the period of time now where you're at, you have a complete team built almost, with the exception of the quarterback position, and I could argue the middle linebacker needs to be updated. You know, but let's see if someone else has a perspective. I think he's ready. Finally, DTA, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
What's up? Can you guys hear me all right?
I'm gonna let you guys cook a minute.
So, sorry, I had to go. I ended up using a hardline connection just to make it much better. And I, did that. So I was doing that, and then I had some fish and chips delivered. So then I was doing that.
Fish and chips? That sounds pretty good.
Oh, it was amazing. There's a spot right by my house. Make the best fish and chips. It was so good. Now I'm like way too stuffed. But I heard what you guys are talking about. Want to propose something, right? If we're talking in terms of head coaches, I have two candidates. I don't know what the situation is with Bieniemy, but he's someone that I've always liked as a head coaching candidate for Miami. And then the other two that I think, if you want to, potential, it would be D'Amico, the guy from the 49ers. What's his name? D'Amico Ryans. He's the D coordinator for the 49ers. And then the other one was Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Both of those guys, sorry, my dog's crawling up here again, are guys that I take a look at.
Famous, man. He's trying to be part of the Finn's tailgate. No problem.
I know. Watch. He'll come up here. Watch. Can you see him? Come here, Obi.
Yeah, I understand. Listen, if the Miami Dolphins go after another first-time head coach, I think this is going to happen. Shit's just going to hit the fan. It's going to be like a nuclear bomb went off. We can't afford another first-time head coach and go through the same hiccups that we've gone through this season. The way this team is designed and built, and the window that we have, we need someone with experience that's going to come in and get the job done, like guaranteed. You bring in a Bill Belichick if it's Brady, I mean, someone like that. You bring in a Sean Payton. I still think Sean Payton could very well come here. He's just waiting for after the season's over for Miami to figure out really what they want. I mean, think about
Right.
this. Think about this. It was already rumored to be a done deal. Brady, Sean Payton. Brady's gonna be a free agent. Why wouldn't Sean Payton want to come here knowing the fact that Brady's his quarterback? You know what I mean?
Right.
It was going to be a done deal regardless. So that's why I think it's definitely still a possibility. I don't think it's Denver. They can throw all the money they want around. I don't think I think there's a lot more problems in Denver than what people realize. So
Yeah.
it's not just because they brought in Russell Wilson. There's a lot of problems with that team. It starts with the
Right.
defense and the offensive side of the ball. I could see why they were open to trading Chubbs because they knew the problems they had. They knew what they were going to be dealing with. So we'll see. We'll see what's up with them. But Sean Payton, McVay, you could say Harbaugh, but I think Harbaugh's staying in Michigan. I think Ross has made that a done deal. He's gonna pay and pay and pay whatever it takes to keep Ross there until he retires.
Yeah.
If there is a team he could go to, and only because he used to play for them, I could see him becoming the Colts head coach at some point. You know,
Yeah.
just because he
And
used to play for them, and I get it. I get it.
And
Go
and
ahead.
yeah, that's something. Well, I was just gonna say I saw an article on that too, and it makes sense, right? I think in the situation that we're in, and here's where I like broken takes, and this is because this is where I love this show is because you get to be a lot more creative, I think, and you're not so stuck inside the box in the normal way of thinking when when making assessments or looking at different takes or trying to assess different things with this team. And that's why I love broken takes is because like I said, you have that out of the box thinking. um but to kind of add that like realistic perspective, the reality is, and at least in my opinion, is I don't know. I'm not going to say that it's because McDaniel did just enough, but I'm going to say like with him limping into the playoffs, nonetheless, no matter how like it's not like it was some tremendous win and he got us in. We clearly did all the dominoes fell in the right order, which helped get us in on top of winning that game. But McDaniel, I believe, is safe, at least for another year. But if like I of course have candidates who I'd like if it came down to that. Excuse me. But the reason I say that is because you have the stability issue. If you go through another head coaching change, you're also going to be going through a lot more staff changes on top of that head coach. He's probably going to, whoever comes in next is probably going to want to clean house. Who knows what type of stipulations there'll be, just like there was with McDaniel when he came on board. He had to keep Tua and he had to keep Boyer, and that was the stipulations of him coming on board, right? I don't know that you'd have that. You bring in another head coach, then he's probably going to want to clean house, bring in his staff, which I don't think is the right time. Right now, you have a team where, in my honest opinion, I'm not going to say we're 100% complete. I don't think that we're just a quarterback away. Now, we could definitely take the roster we have, add a capable quarterback and potentially go the whole way. But I still think there's some things we got to address, right? Like some depth on the O-line. I think we were headed in the right direction, but we need to get rid of guys that are injury prone. And if we're going to pay that kind of money, you need to bring in proven guys who can stay healthy longer and offer, be out on the field for us when we need them, especially when you're like in the playoffs and we're down to, damn near having to use a running back for offensive linemen because we don't have nobody. So, I think that with the you've there's a couple pieces, like I said, that you got to address, but for the most part, you have a head coach who, regardless of how we feel about him, and you already know my opinion on how he finished in terms of how Flores finished and how McDaniel finished. You already know how I feel about all that. I don't think he really did anything impressive because my expectations were way higher with the roster and the wolf tickets and the bullshit we were sold about McDaniel and who he was and what he was going to deliver. And he was going to bring us this high-powered, explosive offense. We're going to be outscoring all these opponents, and our offense is going to be the one to carry us. It's not going to be like back in the day when our defense carried us. This is all the shit we were sold, right? Well, we fell way short of that, if you ask me. But I still think with the record he finished, he's safe for at least another year. I think it's almost like the lesser two evils. You'll do less damage by keeping McDaniel here for the time being, giving him one full offseason, one full year after that offseason to maybe fix the holes in his staff and to bring a couple pieces on board and then give him a shot. I would say if he does the same shit next year, because my expectations are going to be even higher next year, right? You get there's no ifs, ands, or buts around. You've got to get rid of McDaniel. You have to get rid of him at that point. And if you're asking like what that looks like for me, I will not even settle for just a playoff win or an appearance, nonetheless. Neither. If you don't take the division, okay, if you don't clinch the division and make it, I'd say to like, again, I'm gonna throw it out there. The AFC Championship with the roster we've got and McDaniel next year, you're fucking done. I don't know how you could not have that expectation with everything he's got, everything he's surrounded to it with, all the draft capital that him and Greer invested. Mostly Greer on that front because he's the one that's making those decisions, right? When it comes to like our draft capital and the money. But that's where I think like it's the lesser of. You've got to let McDaniel. I think he's going to be around for another year. I just don't see that publicly, right? Let's think about the optics. Not only the damage it would do to the team, because I think it's like half and half. If you're asking me, Ollie, I think that half the locker room, I'm going to say half and half, right? Like half the locker room is out on him. And then you have the other portion of guys who are maybe not fully in on McDaniel anymore. It just would appear that
you think that they're not on McDaniel anymore.
I think that it would be yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I'd say so. From the optics of looking from the outside in, you see guys that aren't really, they don't really seem committed. They don't seem like they're out there playing at the best of their abilities.
I see what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree, but I think there's a context to it that we have to explain. I don't think that our tight end room is in it anymore. You know what I mean? Gesicki, Darren Smythe,
right?
Hunter Long, if he ever shows up, and Tanner Connor. I don't think those guys are in it anymore because have gotten hardly any plays to them. Gesicki had a big catch. You know, that was one catch. You know what I mean? Rock and roll. But the flip side of it is that I understand what you're stating. I do agree. I think he does get another year because you think about it this way: you handcuffed him to a defensive team that he didn't get to pick. He didn't get to pick his defensive coordinator, right? He didn't get to pick the assistants or anything like that. Sam Madison, yeah, maybe he did have something to do with that. And Sam Madison's a great secondary coach, and I don't mind keeping him. He's developed guys like Cater Kehu, you know, even Trill Williams before he got hurt. He looked really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even Nick Needham looked like he was a step up.
Absolutely.
So I would keep him, for example. But the linebackers coach, they need a come to God conversation, to be honest, because their tackling was horrendous, the worst I've ever seen in previous years. Even the season that we won 5 games under Flo, I think it was, for his first season. I could argue that I've seen better tackling then than I do now.
Right.
You know, when you have Deebo Samuels dead to rights with 3 players right in his face surrounding him, and he gets by all 3 at once, there's something wrong. When you have players trying to just like bump shoulder somebody out of bounds or bump shoulder to get them to hit the ground, there's something wrong. When you have Melvin Ingram every single time has his hands around the quarterback and the quarterback gets away, there's an issue.
Right.
They're not locking up. They're not dragging the player down immediately. They're not making the appropriate tackle to get the sack. That's why our sack production was down this season, right?
Yeah, I'd agree.
How many times did we have the quarterback it done in the backfield and Josh Allen, oh, I'm just going to run it and you can't catch me, ha ha ha, even though you had your hands all over me. You know what I mean? How many times did you see that? How many times did you see the quarterback of Chicago do that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So those are things that I think that are on Boyer, and I think Boyer should have addressed and even scheme things up to make it easier. You know what I mean? We didn't. I told Color before you came on. We didn't really have any organic pressure. Even having Chubbs here, it still was not organic. It still was the same thing. Melvin Ingram bum rushing into the quarterback every time. You know, Phillips every so often. In fact, the last game, I don't even think I even saw Jalen Phillips. That's how quiet he was. So, just my opinion. Um, I do think McDaniel gets another chance. He gets to pick his own defensive assistants and even defensive coordinator. If he sticks with Boyer, then so be it. But I just think that there's a lot more issues there than what people are trying to really, bring out to the light. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I'd
So
agree with all
that's
that. Yeah.
but after the second season, if let's say, but here's the thing though, let's say he doesn't win the division, but he gets us to another playoff and he gets a playoff win, you stick with him. No, it's
No.
the first guy that's brought a playoff win in however 20, almost 30 years now. You
Let
don't want to
me
stick.
No, and I like what you said about the linebackers on that. That is something I definitely address. Not only would I address it on like when you come to positional stuff like that, right? Like with the linebackers, I'd address the players. I'd also address the coaching staff in charge of those positions that are highly lacking. They've given us lackluster play at best all season, and I
Mhm.
expect more from this team. Right now, again, like I said, I just think that don't get me wrong, there's candidates I like here, but I think that you're in a world of shit and you're gonna it's gonna be it's gonna be like an atom bomb going off if you go in and clean house. McDaniels, only in here for 1 year, takes us to the playoffs, and then the optics of that, right? Oh, he
Mhm.
got us in the playoffs, and then you got the fucking crazy fan base that are gonna go nuts and ballistic because you just fired the guy that supposedly got us in. But that's where I agree, and I think he's gonna have another year. But here's the problem, like, um, the deal with McDaniel, you've got to bring in the staff um and address those things. But let's say if he does that, right, and he takes care of the few roster missing holes, and they're really not that big. Like I said, maybe some O-line depth, fix whatever's going on with the tight end room,
Mhm.
figure out who our running back's going to be, stuff like that, right? Like we're like our wide receiver core, the the core of this roster as a whole is pretty much complete. You got to go and do like the nitpicky stuff and see, you know what I mean? And that's it. But if let in your scenario, if that's all he did is if he takes the same roster for the most part,
Mm.
gets us into the playoffs. Now, when you say that, are you talking like just gets us to the playoffs and one win, or are we the leaders of the division and have a
Well, like I said, here's the issue that we're having. So I don't know if you paid attention to the off season, but we were all saying that there's no way a 9-8 team makes the playoffs. And look, lo and behold, we're 9-8. You know what I mean?
that's what we were saying. I told you at
So
one point I didn't
it,
think that I
yeah,
thought that I thought 11-6 was
even
the only way we're getting in.
we even said 11-6, you may not make the playoffs. You really had to win 12 games. That's what we said.
Yep,
So
yep.
let's say you win. Let's say you win 12 games, but you don't win your division, which is possible. It is very possible, right? So let's say we win our 12 games. We're comfortably in the playoffs. We've controlled our wild card. There's no way
Right.
anybody else, gets in front of us. And then we turn around and we beat whoever it is first game right off the bat. Doesn't matter if it's Buffalo or I would assume if we have 12 wins, I think we would be the number one wild card. So we're probably going to be playing like whoever the worst of the division winners would have been. Probably somebody from the NFC East because that's more than likely what would happen.
Right.
So let's say we blew them out of the water, and we're on our way, and it looks like that we could compete to whoever's on the other side, right? What do you do then? He back-to-back playoff appearances. He's won you the game in this playoff that we're talking about. He's showing you progress where the other two coaches we've had hasn't shown you that in the past decade. You know what I mean? What do you do then at that point?
I'll give you my honest opinion. And I like how you kind of separated, because there's many different ways to skin a cat, right? Like we can end up in the playoffs in different scenarios, right? Like you could finish 9-8 again next year and just happen to have dominoes fall and get in again, right? But that's where I think context matters, because if he gets me 12 wins and he gets me into the playoffs, even if we're not first in the division, I think I would still be satisfied with that, but it would have to still be like a playoff win, right? You'd have to get us advanced to the next round, which is something a feat we haven't been able to do for a long time. I'm not just happy with getting into the playoffs, but to turn that around on you, let's say he does the same thing. Let's say he finishes 9-8 again and just so happens to get into the playoffs because there were several other teams that sucked worse and we beat them or whatever.
Yeah.
In that scenario, no, he's still got to go. And this is what I'm saying. And I'm sorry, but not you, but they sold us something very specific. They weren't saying in general, this is something very specific that they sold all of us. I would, when you tell me that you've got this genius, and genius is a very strong word, right? But that's what that's the verbiage that they used. Genius offensive mind, and he's going to come coach the Miami Dolphins, and he's going to fix Tua and blah, blah, blah. That's what I expected. I expected him to be able to get the most out of Tua, which that's a whole nother story, right? Tua's shown he's capable, but that's a whole nother thing.
But has he not done that? Because this show isn't really to dispute that, but let me just.
No, I know. That's why I said it
real quick. McDaniel has delivered that. He has transformed Tua, and if you look at his stats compared to last year versus this year, and what he's good at and what he's not, and where he ranks on everything, it is night and day. He was number one in a lot of stuff up until the last couple of weeks. Go ahead.
Well, the issue with that is, because somebody else had this argument earlier, right? The only issue with that is if you're looking at the stats with Tua, a lot of those stats are padded based on what he did against lower tier teams. He did not go out, with the exception of the aberration game against the Ravens. He has yet to go do this against a top tier team at home or on the road or in January or December. He has yet to go do this. Now, yes, he had a good game in Buffalo, but that's the type of game. If you're going to have any quarterback in there, cool, whatever. But if you're talking of a guy that you want us to be our franchise guy, the guy, he's got to win those games for me.
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree.
But
I was just
going to say specifically to your point, when in terms of the stats, I think that the stats can be a little misleading because a lot of those came, except for like the QBR and stuff like that. But when you talk about like our offense as a whole and Tua and where we're ranked and we were a top 10 offense and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that became because we were pouring points on lower tier teams. So it was a little padded because we didn't do that shit. We weren't pouring points on greater, top, much higher tier opponents. You see what I'm saying? But, and that's why I said, like,
good.
I'll finish with this. Like I said, the context matters. I think that there's different scenarios because, like I said, there's different ways to skin a cat. And with McDaniel, it depends how he gets me there next year. But I still think that this year he's safe. I know that it's kind of like right now, it's kind of where like everyone's divided. Like either they are standing by McDaniel or they're not. I don't see them bringing in somebody because you would just put the whole entire thing in turmoil. That's a big step back. And I don't think you need to go there. I think that he's earned at least a full year and a full offseason. It's now a matter of what he does with it. The one thing though, like I said, it'll matter who he replaces, kind of who he brings in staff wise, and how he gets us there. But I don't think I don't know where you stand on it, but I see no excuse. Absolutely none. Because even if it's not Tua, I don't care if we keep Tua. I don't care if we bring in a veteran, and I don't care who it is. You have no excuse if whatever direction you choose to go with the roster we have to miss the playoffs. So question is like he for sure should be in the playoffs next year, but the question is how are you going to get there? Are you going to get there with a 9-8 record, or are you going to get there with 12 wins and get us advances, win a game and advance us in the playoffs? That's the question, because you could arrive there in two different scenarios, right? But if he does the same thing like this year, where we only get in because two other teams lose or whatever, and we finish 9-8, I'm not happy with that. There's no excuse with the roster we have for him to just be. Brian Flores is doing the same shit. Why? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Brian, I'll give you that. He didn't get us into the playoffs, but that again was a scenario where all the dominoes didn't fall. It wasn't our destiny. Like we didn't control it. Same way McDaniel didn't control it. It finally came down to a point where other people controlled our destiny. Yeah, we had to win, but even with the win, other things still had to happen for us to get in, right?
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying, and the other thing of it is that publicly and personally, I'll say it right here, I'm actually for another year of McDaniel. I'm actually for, hey, the guy showed me what he can do. He did, Tua had a hell of a game against the Ravens. You know what I mean? That's a team it's been forever and a day that we've had back-to-back wins against them, right?
Yeah.
And Tua technically still won with Buffalo at home, and regardless of the ridiculous points that stats that he put up, Tua did what I expected him to do against these teams that he did not do the year prior. Okay.
Right.
So I understand that your point of saying that his stats are padded because of who they played, right? I get that. But these are the same teams that we played last year, and we didn't put up those stats that we should have. You understand what I'm saying? It's like last year when we put up, we played the Saints, who were playing with their third string quarterback at the time.
They had Ian. Yeah, they had Ian Book in.
Book.
Yep.
And they had their secondary was kind of hurt as well, I think, at that time. We should have put bomb after bombs against them. You know what I mean? Scoring at will, and we didn't. So in these games, he did exactly what I expected. I expected us to beat the shit out of the Texans, before they had to pull in. I expected us to put up points against Detroit. They have a shit defense. There's no question about it, right?
Right.
Those games, I expected us to win and put up the numbers. Now, you were saying it prior to us playing them, the 49ers. We hadn't played a 49er style defense before. I didn't know what to expect. It started off very well.
You guys what happened.
The very first play was a pass to Sherfield, who took it to the house. That was awesome. I thought we were going to start off like crap. Then reality sunk in. So, do I think we need another year of Tua where I'm going with this? No, I think Tua has become a liability, and he still hasn't proven that he can play toe-to-toe with top 5 defenses. And Skylar has done something that he wasn't able to do, and that's beat a top 5 defense from start to finish. that's something that Skylar has done. Now, I'm not
And
saying
nobody can take that away from Skylar either. Like, he's earned that. And
no.
now
He didn't
it
have
was
like
ugly.
it
It
was
was
ugly. Yeah,
ugly as shit.
and it
But
was schemed. It was also schemed at the same time.
yeah,
So we
absolutely.
ran the ball way more than we usually do versus them. And I could see us very well, doing something like the 49ers did in the playoffs last year. We could very well be that really boring team that does a lot of running the ball to set up the pass here and there. You know what I mean? That's how they went on that run and beat teams all the way to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
It wasn't
absolutely.
all just their offense was amazing. No, there's a reason why they wanted to go with Trey Lance. And that's because Trey Lance becomes more dynamic. He's more of a dynamic quarterback than Jimmy G. Jimmy G is like Tua. It's almost one dimensional. They do
Right.
certain things right. And then once you want to expand from that, they can't necessarily adapt to that. And that's kind of why I think you stick with McDaniel because you can see what his offense can do. And with the right person at the helm, he can expand it this way, he can expand it that way. He can open up the playbook and we can see plays we haven't seen before, which I know exist. I know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There are plays I've seen in each game. Today I just told Color early in the show, and I'm gonna bring Color back up here. Because he looks like he's ready to talk a little bit. Um I saw plays in the Buffalo game that we had week 3 that I just got to rewatch on NFL Network. Check it out because you can go back and watch it still. I was watching it and there was plays I haven't seen all season that we just did once in that game only. And I'm like, why didn't we do that again? What are you saving it for? You know what I mean? So I know it. I
Right.
know we have plays and there's plays that McDaniel has that we haven't seen. I just don't know if our quarterbacks or quarterback, I should say, and Tua can execute them to make those plays effective. And I think that's the problem. And that's why we have to
That's what
bring.
remains to be seen this Sunday. It is what it is, or
Yeah.
it isn't what it isn't. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I just
Yeah.
actually had we're rounding out about an hour. I just had a question for you guys at this point to kind of be able to add some temporary conclusion to the conversation about coach and quarterback and all that. 2 questions, yes or no, both questions. I'll give my answers first. You guys go after me. Tua here
No.
next year, yes or no? Mike McDaniel here yet next year, yes or no? I say no to both.
No to both McDaniel, no, and no Tua is what you're saying.
Yep.
I say no Tua, yes McDaniel.
I'm going to say no to Tua 100%. I have to give McDaniel one more year. I have to. And it's only because what I said, him being handcuffed to the defense.
So we got it locked down then, basically, is you guys are both no, yes, and I'm no, no.
Yeah, I respect your thought process, Color. I mean, the only way I'm going to say yes, yes, or I'm sorry, no, no, in join forces with you, is if we know for sure a Sean Payton
Right.
or
And remember
Billy
this.
Belichick coming. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the only way I do this. If you're going to tell me that we're going to bring some first timer in again, then I'm going to be like, fuck you.
Well,
Right.
Ali, I think that's
And remember, this is January 13th. Right now before the
30, yeah,
playoff
12,
game. So
26
well, and I'm just saying, but
I do think McDaniel could do enough this Sunday to earn it back for himself. But
let me ask you this, Kohler, and to Ali's point, and I think that's it. That's a great point, right? Like, and I'm right there along with it too, Kohler, and kind of I'm sure you heard a lot what I was saying, but I think that the case with McDaniel is I absolutely think that they're going to get rid of Tua, but I believe with McDaniel, he's owed one off season in a full year. He's shown us that he's capable. Like Ali said, he's shown us what he is capable of. But if you're telling me that we're going to get rid of him and it's not for a guy like Sean Payton or something of that caliber, and it's just going to be for another first timer or something like that, there's no way. There's no way that they are going to swap one out for the other. It's got to be for something better or nothing.
It has to be it
I
has to
agree
be
with
the superstar, bro. It can't be some upcoming genius or whatever that we've seen over and over again.
Yeah.
It
Then
has
they're
to be
just
a sure thing.
or
You know,
or else at that point all they're doing is putting shit in a box, repackaging it, and trying to sell it back to us again.
yeah, that's what charlatans do. And I know Chris Greer's a charlatan, or charlatan, however you say it, I don't care.
Charlatan, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you know what I mean. They try,
Mhm.
they sell shit and make it look like gold. That's basically
Yeah.
what it is. That's the only way I agree with you. McDaniel has shown a lot of promise on the offensive side of the ball. He did do what he said he was going to do, was fix Tua and he made his numbers look really good, regardless of who they played. Their
Yeah.
numbers, the stats are still stats. So that's the reality of it. Tua is just, Tua has to be a no because I'm sorry, he's too much of a liability.
Yeah.
You know
And
what I mean?
plus, the one other thing that I would add to that too is again why I think is McDaniel has shown us even when he played Buffalo in Buffalo, I think he was the better coach that night. I just think Josh Allen was the better quarterback, and that's who won it for him. Absolutely, I think we had the better plan.
That game was coached so well. It was
Oh,
always going to
absolutely.
come down to whoever had the ball less.
Yeah,
That was
and
the
that's
best
and
Scott
that's
stats I've seen in a long time. Go ahead.
absolutely. And if you take that and you pair it with this, like I think McDaniel has a very high ceiling, and I think that he can be a great coach for us. And I think that he's already shown that potential, right? The one thing I think he needs some stability and consistency at a quarterback, which is the guy that's basically translating what he wants and doing it on the field, right?
This is
And
true.
he needs that stability and that consistency at that position. Also, another thing that we have to take into consideration when assessing Mike McDaniel, look at what he's had to work with. He came in on a short off season. They did not shore up some of the positions, and he has been just devastated, dealing with a completely depleted, devastated roster all season long. And I
Name
understand,
another.
and this is where I think that I'll just finish this. Like I said, I understand that good coaches make it work even with your backups, whatever, yada yada. And you guys know I've been a big proponent on that. I think that's what separates good teams from great teams. But to the level that we've been injured, I mean, it's just to the point. Like I said, Mike McDaniel there's nowhere else he has to turn. He's just got to fucking do it with what he's got. And that's where I think you got to shore up some of these positions, add depth with guys that can go out. I'd like, like we said, I'd like to see, linebackers fixed. I'd like to see O-line shored up for sure. But I want to see guys that have good health rapport so that if they are needed on the field, they're not going to be already injured on the IR before they even step foot in a damn game for us. And then I'd like to see the fact that, I want to see what Mike McDaniel does with the fully loaded roster that's all healthy and everything. And I want, I just want to see what he can do with that. And you got to admit that there's a fine difference between a beat up team, you know what I'm saying, and what he's been working with, what he's got, what he has to go face great opponents, high tier teams, or high tier opponents with this depleted roster, and a third string rookie quarterback.
That's the other part of it. That's the other part of it. What other Super Bowl winning head coach, or even head coach in the last modern era, has gone through 3 starting quarterbacks in 3 games in a row? Tua goes down, you bring in Teddy, right? Next game, Teddy starts, he's out. First thing, you already went to Skyler. Next game, Skyler starts, and then he gets injured, and you go back to Teddy. When have you ever seen that happen?
Not that I can think of. I haven't seen it.
I don't think I've ever seen that ever happen in our history or any other team's history. There's been times where you've seen, their quarterback got injured, they went to the backup.
Right.
The backup was shit, and then they ended up putting in someone else because he was crap. But never injury after injury after injury. Then when have you seen it where a team, every time they brought somebody off of the waiver wire or signed somebody, to fill a position of need, and they're injured that exact week they got signed? You haven't seen that in a long time, too. So he's gone through a lot of shit. That's why, regardless of all that stuff, he still got us in the playoffs, and he still kind of made something out of Tua. You know what I mean? Tua's not our answer. Maybe he's an answer for another team, but he's not our answer. but I think he did just enough to make some trade value here, where we
Right.
could be looking to maybe
And in
trade.
fairness, I really don't think. See, this is where people get confused.
Yeah.
Both of these statements can be true.
Mhm.
We haven't been able to have a fair assessment of Skyler.
Yeah.
That could be true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
a
Kohler.
fair assessment of Skyler could tell us he is terrible. That could also be true.
Absolutely.
We'll
You know
find
what I
out
mean?
Sunday.
But the inverse to that could equally be true. We could
Yeah.
also find out that he's pretty dang good.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, this is true.
So,
Yeah, this is definitely
know,
true. We'll definitely find out Sunday.
People assume because you say that we haven't had a fair assessment of him that that automatically means you're saying he's good. Well, no, but you have to admit we haven't had a fair assessment of him.
Mm-hmm.
Do people if somebody wants to say, well, I don't expect a good result once given a fair assessment, then hey, say that. You know what I mean? Say it with your chest. But don't think just because I'm saying we haven't had a fair assessment that automatically makes him good. But it also automatically doesn't make him bad either.
See, I love how Kohler said that, because I was trying to today in the spaces, I was trying to explain that same thing, and that's how I was trying to explain it. Right? Like, it sucks because
the reality is we just don't know.
right.
We don't know things like how much Mike McDaniel has held back, things over the season, like you alluded to earlier, Ollie.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. We just don't know what we're going to get Sunday.
Well, and that fares for another question. Is this a case where we're limited by our head coach, or where our head coach is limited by his quarterback?
Well,
I
that's
think
the thing where I think a lot of people, I'm sorry, Holly, I think that's the part where a lot of people that like Skyler believe that he's no longer limited by his quarterback if he would just let him go and open the playbook up.
There's things that Skyler did in the preseason that I haven't seen Tua do yet, and there's things that I thought we would see Tua do during the season that he hasn't done yet. So that could be, and just like what we're saying that our quarterback could be limited when it comes to Tua, that's something that the two statements are true again.
Yeah.
And again,
he could be limited, but he may not be limited, and we just don't know.
Well, and also here's another two statements that could be true.
Mm-hmm.
He's less limited by Skyler, but still needs time for that to pan out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? However, the other thing I would say is that when it comes to Skyler is that I forgot what I was going to say. We're going to have to edit that one.
That's some good shit.
No, I just, had too much flowing in at the same time.
It's like, Kohler, did you freeze?
He was really had something to say. No, it's all good.
I'm like Tua. The really good is really good, and the really bad is really bad. You know what I mean?
Ain't no there's no median.
Yeah.
It'll come back.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
new seasons, new gear. Show the world what it means to be a fan in 100% authentic gear. Fanatics, officially licensed everything.
make sure you use the link below for that, by the way. Helps out the channel. Definitely appreciate it. So what are you saying, DT? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Excuse me, caught me mid-yawn.
Color was trying to say something. I figured it out.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, you caught me mid-yawn. Am I breaking up, or can you guys hear me all right?
No, you're good. You're good, man.
Okay. Yeah, I just, this, and I'll make it kind of brief. Like I said, I don't like to be so long-winded, but
give us your final thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, I think where we're at right now is we're at a crossroad where, and this is just my opinion, and I kind of said it earlier. I think, and I'm gonna bundle everything up with a nice little hand delivered final thought for you guys. Skylar deserves the same chance and same opportunity that we gave Tua. Now, I'm not saying you got to give Skylar 3 years, but you know what I mean, right? Like when I'm saying that, I'm saying is he deserves more than the one game that he's played start to finish, one in his whole career yet. He's a rookie. And that's where I give him some grace. And I don't say that the Jets game, even though it was a low scoring game, I can't simply say that he played like trash. No, he just played like a rookie. Anything you get beyond that is just a cherry on top. He goes out and lays 6 touchdowns, 300 something yards. That's just a cherry on top. You can't expect that. Whereas you would expect a high caliber game from a high caliber player that's got 10 years experience, right? Let me rephrase that. A guy like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady or something like that. Obviously, Mike Glennon with 10 years in the league or whatever is not going to go do that. But you know what I meant. Same point. So you got to give him some grace. Let's see what he's got. He could suck. He could be dog shit. I don't know, but I want to give him the same opportunity that we afforded Tua. Now, enough of that. In terms of McDaniel, I think McDaniel has earned the right to another year. He's earned the right to have a full off season. Let's see what he does with it. Let's see the moves that he makes. Let's get guys back healthy. Let's get this roster loaded again. Hopefully, they're not doing stupid shit to get injured in OTAs right before the start of next season, because then I'm going to be pissed again. And that's when I'm going to say, let's start firing the fucking training staff. Excuse my language. But you guys know I've been bitching about that all year. I just don't like the training staff. I think they do a terrible job because our rosters or our injury reports always, longer than an encyclopedia. I mean, it's just thick. So I think, I want to give McDaniel. He's earned that right to have another year with a full roster, with guys back healthy. Let's see what he does in the offseason. I think he also needs some stability and some consistency at quarterback position, and somebody that's not going to limit him. Someone that he can take all of his genius, like you said earlier, the entire playbook, and throw it at him. He can open up the entire playbook, his whole freaking genius mind. Here it is. You know what I'm saying? Someone that's not limited, where he has to pander to that person and make plays that he can make because he's not able to do others, right? But I will thoroughly, you can clip it here. I don't give a shit. I'm standing by it. I don't care if we finish 9-8 next year. Even if we get in the playoffs, he's fucking done. Cut. Fire him. I don't care. I don't want him near the team. You don't bring in a guy, okay, in his year 2 and does the same thing. And you're not. Let me rephrase that. If Mike McDaniel doesn't get us into the playoffs, controlling our own destiny, when I say that, I mean we are not relying on anybody else. Solely if we win, we're in. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't deliver that, and he doesn't deliver me a playoff win, it's an egregious failure all over again. At that point, you've got to move on with the coach. The quarterback position, I say it's time, and it sucks because people need to understand. I like Tua the person, but he is not I don't like him as the franchise quarterback. I like the young man, but I don't think he can be that guy. He does not offer us the longevity. He doesn't offer us the consistency that we need. He can't go in and win big games or put things on his back. You got to get a guy who's going to come in and who's got the ability to deliver those games. Or else, what are we doing? Are we seriously in this shit to be a mediocre franchise and be a stalemate? We're going to be at a stalemate and stuck. Mm-hmm. You have to make progress. We can't always be mediocre. That means we got to be a team like the Steelers, who always a lot of times finds themselves in the postseason, right? Whether they win or lose or how far they go, that's up for question or up for debate, but they always find themselves in the postseason. Teams like that. It's time, and you don't load the roster like we did, paying the amount of money that we're paying on both sides of the ball to just be mediocre. And it comes to a point where if the franchise is going to be okay with that, we, the fans, have to take the step to not be okay with that. We have to not allow ourselves to accept mediocrity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with you, DTA. I completely understand your concept on that, and we shouldn't accept mediocrity. We've had it for 35, going on 40 years, and I think that I think the Dolphins have done a lot to try to not be mediocre, but like you said, the dominoes are not falling into place, and it's because of little mistakes or stuff that we've done over the years. Um, Color mentioned early in the show doing a soft rebuild at quarterback. Sign Brady. I think we should sign Brady and then look to draft somebody in the 2024 draft. That's where I'm going with it on that aspect. Color, tell me your final thoughts. What are your final thoughts about
Well,
this?
I just think as far as the game goes, we need to. It just really comes down to McDaniel and the players need to coach and play. They need to stay away from calling the game like it's the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going in there saying, well, what can my rookie quarterback do or what can he not do and how can I play it safe with him, then you're just going to lose and it's over with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give him the chance to show what he can do. And if you do, then you can say, I believe you can save your job if you can win with this guy.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Do you want to add anything else to that?
That's
No?
about it.
That's about it. Well, I agree with both of you guys. I understand both concepts. I do agree. Depending on how they call the game on Sunday, it is going to make a big difference if McDaniel's still here or if he's not. A lot
Oh,
is said. Go ahead.
sorry, Ali, I completely forgot, but I was going to ask you guys back when Kohler first popped up. I wanted to ask him that. That was the question I was going to ask. To the question you asked us, if McDaniel loses this game, do you see him being fired, or do you think that doesn't make a difference whether he wins or loses? Because I know that you said no to both. So do you think that has any bearing whether he wins or loses this playoff game?
I'm sorry. Was that for me?
Color, yes, Color. He asked you. Let me iterate. He asked you. The because you said no to Tua and no to McDaniel staying here.
Uh-huh.
Does losing the game bear anything to him leaving, or it doesn't matter if he wins or loses, he's still gone?
I think if it's a big win and if it's clear that it's because of his coaching and his choice at quarterback in the draft and bringing this guy in like that, then yeah, I think it can be argued.
That he'll stay is what you're saying.
Yeah.
That he'll stay.
Okay.
Okay.
But
he
if,
could earn his job
let's
back.
say,
Yeah.
let's I'm gonna just tweak it just a little bit. Let's say Skyler has a really decent game and we end up losing just like we did a couple of weeks ago.
Not enough.
32-29.
Not enough. Anybody can do that.
So you think anyone can do that?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. All right. Well, my take on it is that I think depending on how bad the loss is really what's going to put it for me. If it's a horrible loss where we get smoked, then I could see McDaniel being gone. If we end up winning, or let's say it is a 32-29 type of game, I could see us still sticking one more year with McDaniel. Right? I could see that very well happening. I do think that Tua is gone. And I do think that with that being said, we are going to be looking at bringing in another quarterback in either free agency or trade. I'm going to tell you my gut feeling it's going to be Brady that we bring in. There's just too much connection we've had in the past several years. It's already come out that we've been wanting to get him. I think that they're going to do it finally, that he's a free agent, right? And in turn, I mean, it makes sense. EM Dolphin said, I think it was EM Dolphin fan that said it on the one of the Twitter spaces. I'm pretty sure it was him. If it's not, I'm sorry, sir. I just thought it was you that said it. He has kids here in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be closer to his kids. His kids aren't in Tampa. His kids are with what's her name here in Miami. You know, he's already wanted to come to Miami for a reason. Nobody knew really what that was, but he wanted to come here. Um, there's too much connections for him to just like say, "Oh no, I'm not going to go to Miami." That doesn't make sense. So that's why I think it'll be Brady. I do think that if you do that, that's considered a soft rebuild, and then that buys you time to find the quarterback of the future. You know what I
Right.
mean? You do make some trades, you build that capital, like I said. In 2024, I can tell you 2 quarterbacks. I already named it off. One of them may be 2023, but I'm telling you, 2024, I think, is where he's going to end up. But both of those guys would be massive in this offense. And
So
even
what
if
do you?
go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you think we're gonna so basically where you're at is just to clarify, right? Bring in a bridge quarterback, a veteran that's proven, like for the time being right now, and then eventually, basically, we're gonna find our franchise guy or try again in the draft.
Yeah, because this is why we only have a 3-year window. We had one
Right.
1 year
I agree.
now, so we have 2 more years.
Yep.
You
I agree
bring
with that.
in you bring in Tom Brady. All right?
Mhm.
You already know what you're getting. The guy's the greatest of all time, arguably, right? And you already know you don't have to necessarily coach him up. He knows his way around the pocket. There's no developing that you have to worry about. He can be the guy that you carry in the 2 windows that you have. Now, after the second window,
Mhm.
that's where you want to make sure you have a quarterback that is behind Brady and is learning and absorbing as much as he can. But to Color's point that he brought up earlier, and this is what I'm going to bring up. We talked about Skyler. Why can't Skyler be the guy that's learning behind him? He can, but he needs to show me that he's learning stuff in that window. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because I
Right.
don't.
If he goes out and totally lays a brick Sunday, you draft another guy to sit behind the vet. If he goes
That's
out there
true.
and shows up, you can save that pick and let him sit behind the vet.
But this is true. But I'm talking about drafting a quarterback, not this window, but the next
Right. Right.
next year. And what I'm saying is like I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket because that's what the Miami Dolphins do. They constantly put their eggs in one basket. We put them all
Yeah.
into to Tua. Look what happened.
Well,
All
that's why
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's where it makes a tremendous difference to have a competent backup. And I'm not saying me personally, I like Teddy. I think that Teddy's got experience. I just don't think that honestly, I feel like the conditions or in every situation he's been put in where he has had to go in and play for us, he's had everything working against him, and he just isn't obviously the younger man that he was. But I still like Teddy. But that's where I think that the world a difference it makes having a competent backup that if your starter's not in, this guy can go in and win you a game.
Yeah.
Sorry if
definitely
I'm breaking up or something like that. Let me know, guys, because I can't.
No, you're not at all whatsoever.
Okay.
I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree. That's something you have to think about. We're gonna have to see what Skylar does on Sunday. We'll definitely see. But I'll tell you what, while you're waiting for that, make sure you hit like and subscribe.
Mhm.
And also, while you're waiting, you can check out some of the other content that we have here at the Finn's Tailgate. You got El Capitan, the Finn's Tailgate show every other day of the week. You got the Rabid Dolphin with Lewis. Color commentary, cup of coffee with Color. I know he's going to be starting to do more morning shows soon. And then you got Dolphins debrief and doing shorts and debates and stuff. And then every Saturday night, you got Late Night XL with myself. Also, if you'd like to donate to the channel, we do accept Cash App and Venmo. And during our live shows, you can do super chats. We really definitely appreciate that. And also check out our merch. We got a ton of different merch. Use the links below. We already mentioned
New season. New seasons, new gear. Show the world what it means to be a fan in 100% off.
authentic gear. Sorry. Anyway, definitely check out the links below. We got a lot of the cool stuff.
Edits to do.
Yeah. And then check out the t-shirt. T-shirts are pretty cool. We got hats, all different types of stuff. flip-flops. Yeah, definitely check out the stuff we have. It's pretty cool. Make sure you use the links below. We also have backroom collections, which I don't have their little image here. We'll have to take care of that. So I appreciate it. But with that being said, everybody, fins up. Peace. Until next time.